What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation. This is episode 29. So stoked to have you all here with us. Thanks so much for pushing play. We're your hosts. I'm Jibs, and I'm joined by Sonny's here with a mean mustache.
It's not a mean mustache.
It's coming.
It's like an adolescent. It's a mustache in the adolescent phase. It's a little awkward. It's not real sure of itself yet, and it doesn't. It's a little gangly. Like it can't quite get the whole athletic thing. When it runs, it sort of looks like a horse. It's not great at this point, but it's getting there.
Who was that actor that it was known for his stash?
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck. Yeah.
Got it in one.
You done good. You done good.
Hey. I would have also accepted Burt Reynolds.
Oh, Burt. Oh, that was another solid choice. Actually, that's who I was thinking of. Tom Selleck. Isn't he still acting? Isn't he in Blue Bloods? Isn't that a thing?
Yes.
Still? Yeah.
Still with the mustache.
Still with the mustache. Well, you can't. It's like you now. With a bow tie. Once you have it, you can't stop it. So, still understandable. And Cash is here.
I'm still appalled at the fact that we're calling that a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Right at this current week. I mean, this is what, maybe, I don't know, is that a week ago?
Yeah, so it's about that, right? Like I had a few days off and I managed to string together maybe like 8 days and that's where we're at here. So
okay. Are you committed to this thing?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, like I've seen you grow a mustache and you look like the guy on the Pringles can and it's ridiculous. And I told you this. I told you guys this when you're like, why don't you grow a mustache? And I said, it's a sad little gray mustache. If you look carefully, you can see it looks off-centered and it's because one side is more gray than the other. That's what we're dealing with here. It is not, it's not great, but it will get better.
I got the same thing because I got the gray going. I have a little patch going, so it almost looks like I shave it in one spot on purpose. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. It's just more gray right there. So.
I had a goatee, like not like a goatee. Well, kind of like a goatee. I had a beard and it just sort of got long, but not like one of those crazy. You ever see the people with like the long stringy beard goatee things?
Oh yeah.
I can't deal with that. But like I had, a fairly decent beard, but right around here on the chin area, it just is almost white. It's so gray.
Really?
And it looks bizarre.
What about, you think Kelly let you do the old Jack Sparrow? The whole like braid that comes down the...
Oh my God, no. No, she doesn't even like the handlebars actually. So if I have the mustache and the handlebars go down even a little bit, that's where she doesn't like it. She is accepting of the Tom Selleck classic mustache.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one word for that mustache. And I will not say that word on this show because this is a family show, but it rhymes with corn.
Yeah, I knew that's where you were going. And good use of corn also, something that Indiana and Iowa kids can really appreciate.
It's very true. Very true.
It's a corn stash.
Oh gosh. Well, again, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope you're having a wonderful week. And if not, well, we hope you're laughing by the end of this. This week on the show, we are doing it's funny because we say KOTOR. It's really spelled Cotter? Maybe? Cotter?
So much less fun.
It is so much less fun. Oh, it's so much fun to say KOTOR. So anyway, we got one of those. We got one of those lined up. And then we got a dev discussion week, by the way, folks. So this is the next rendition of Dev Discussion Week makes its return. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's when we comb through dev discussions that are very old. Very old. Reminds me of Legolas. This forest is old. Very old.
Very old. I like this segment a lot. Like I'm very excited about this segment because there's so many times when we're talking about something, we're like, we need to revisit this in a later period of time and see like how are they doing and do we still feel the same way that we did? So I like the concept of this little bit.
Yeah, and same for KOTOR. So for those who don't know what that is, let's explain that to them, to the new listeners as well.
Oh, so KOTOR is a thing that we started doing when we had a podcast about Guild Wars. By the way, we got a lot of grief about not remembering what an Asura was.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that us playing like Guild Wars constantly for periods of months and then forgetting one of the major races, including the race that we individually had like little lore bits on constantly, and then just could not remember what an Asura was. And so YouTube was, the comments on YouTube were friendly, but probably something where they were actually screaming at their computer while we were trying to figure out what that word was.
Yeah.
I've totally done that before when hosts on various shows forget the name of something. And you're just like, Frugalbinder! It's Frugalbinder!
You idiots! Okay, so KOTOR. KOTOR obviously was the game that we all grew up with, Knights of the Old Republic, but it also stands for check out this thing on Reddit, which is a fun little segment that we get to do where I find something on Reddit and I don't tell the guys what it is, and then I just pitch it to them and say, what do you think about this? And it's surprisingly fun. You know, you would think Reddit would be just, you know, a terrible way to build content, but Reddit's actually not so bad, and there's some pretty reasonable people on it. And I always get very excited once we get into the actual gameplay, because the stuff that people put on Reddit with the creativity of cosplays and all sorts of other stuff is just crazy. That is where you find your best stuff.
Do you feel like when you say, you know, Reddit's not so bad, that you're like slowly stepping on a minefield? Like, it's not so bad. It's fine. Boom. Everything's fine. Yeah.
You know, it's weird because I've had so little interaction with Reddit other than this show, because I've always had that impression that Reddit is just such a terrible place. But the Guild Wars 2 Reddit was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was filled with like great stuff all the time, and people with like real opinions that, you know, were well thought out, and nobody was just a giant a-hole, and it was it was actually pretty good. So I didn't do a lot of Reddit before that, and my experience with Guild Wars was super good. So hopefully Ashes has a Reddit community that is half as good as Guild Wars 2, because then we will be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I think if it echoes the sentiment, at least we're getting out of the Ashes of Creation community, I think it does stand a chance to be pretty good and be a little bit less toxic. And there's certainly there's toxicity everywhere in every gaming community. It's just there. But, and maybe it's because we kind of stay away from drama, but we've had a really good experience in Ashes so far.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
Yep.
So Sonny, KOTOR, take us there.
Yep. Okay. So check out this thing on Reddit. This is a post from a day ago by a guy with a cool username. By the way, usernames on Reddit, usually very creative. This guy had one that I was like, what is it? Oh, I get it. It's Spartank. So like Spartan with a K on the end.
Oh, I see what he did.
Spartank. I like it. I like it. Good. I don't know how sometimes you run across a cool name, but then you're like, well, how do I say that? Like that game that I saw on Steam, Humanitz. Did you see this?
I saw that in Discord.
Okay, so it's a zombie game, and it says, I can't even pronounce it. There's a whole problem is I can't pronounce it. It's spelled Human IT and then with a red Z. So is it Humanitz or Humanitz? Humanids?
Humanids, right?
Humanids? Like, what is it supposed to be?
Road.
Humanit Z.
And that's why you have meetings before you choose the name of your game.
I know. Like, did nobody try to pronounce this before they put this game out? Anyways, okay, so Spartank says, max player per realm or server. Now, the original post is very short, and it's from a person that, like, clearly doesn't know, but he basically says, I haven't seen any information on a max player cap per realm or server. Does anyone have insight on this? Also, this does seem to be a game where a few guilds or groups could dominate a server, like if the server was 80% horde and a PvP server, for instance. So the first people immediately say like 10K, right? And that's the information that we've kind of been given as well, 10K. Right. Now, the question that I have for you guys comes a little bit further into here, where somebody says, okay, I have to get this exactly right, but basically it says if one guild gets 80% of the player base under one roof, this actually came from a person called Intep. If one guild gets 80% of the player base under one roof and they rule, they surely deserve to rule the server. But it will be more likely bigger guilds and alliances ruling over metropolises in the surrounding area. And then people just kind of go off, right? And the question is two parts. One, what is your ideal server size for a game like this? And two, if you have a content creator that comes in and drags with him a massive amount of people into a game like this, do they deserve to rule the server?
Cash, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go first. I like the 10,000. And that's coming from a dismal experience with New World having 2,000 as their cap. It was 2,000 or 2,200 or something like that. And that was not fun, particularly when the game launched and we were on servers that had some insane, like their insane paid streamers that they had that would come on, and you were locked out of the server and you couldn't play with your friends. That's a problem. And then the other one was once, like, say you stepped away from the game and then came back and you don't have the ability on your like max level character to log back in because the servers are full. And that was very, very frustrating. So I like the 10,000. I think it's better than too many, and it's better than too many, and it's better than too little. So I think it's kind of like right in the middle. Yeah. So I like that. I am a little bit worried about what is going to happen and we're talking now along the second question where you were talking about a very large guild coming in there, whether or not it's, from a big streamer or not, but the big streamers will show up for this game. And whether it is for 2 weeks or whether it's for a month or when Ashes hits a home run forever, those larger communities are going to show up, and it really is going to make a big impact on some of these servers. The question is which servers are those going to be, and do you avoid it or do you flock to that for the constant flow of content and open world battling and sieges and conflict and all that stuff? I personally do not want to be on a server where large content creators are. If it's small content creators like us, and maybe there's a few of us and we want to do an alliance or some kind of friendly competition, that's a different story. I would love to do that kind of stuff. But when you have a large community that comes in, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of larger streamers that might come into a game like Ashes and bring their community toxicity with them. And I don't want to see that. That will ruin a server for sure. It will ruin people's player experience for sure if a majority of that server is just running it. But the hard part is that is the design that Intrepid has in mind. People will take advantage of that. And the design of it is that if you do have a juggernaut on a server, that's when the interaction between all of the smaller guilds has to take place, and you have to get together, form alliances, and unseat that large guild. But how difficult will it be with an 80% population on a server that is, all in one guild? It'd be pretty dang hard, because you figure you could have alliance after alliance after alliance after alliance, and guild could be, I don't know, throw it out there and just say Asmongold Guild 1, Asmongold Guild 2, Asmongold Guild 3, and you can have 20 of those. And now all of a sudden that entire server is just effed. So
Rogue SI in chat says, this is from the wiki, around 8 to 10K concurrent users per server is projected. So that could change some things up. I think for me, it's look, like it comes down to how does it feel on the map? How does it feel to have 10,000 people playing in the Ashes of Creation map? Does it feel too congested? Of course, there's going to be hot spots, right? Like there's always going to be some, what's the right word? Like main cities that people will go to. For instance, if you're playing Elder Scrolls Online, you're going to Stormhaven. A lot of people are. I was one of many. If you're playing World of Warcraft, you're going to Dragonflight's main city, which name escapes me. I don't know what it is. Valdrakken. So it just like, okay, so like there's always going to be those hubs of people, but what's it feel like out in the world? Does it feel like it's an appropriate amount of people? Like when you're gathering, like, is it too much? Is maybe 5 to 8K more of the option? It's just hard to tell. And so this is really, again, kind of one of those questions to me that it just seems like a, and I don't mean to take away from it at all, but it feels more hypothetical to me, because we don't know. We haven't played it. We don't know what it's going to feel like on the map. And to go off of what you said, Cash, when it comes to content creators, yeah, I don't want to be a part of the big servers. It's only one content creator literally broken up in that completely takes away from the purpose of the game. Like especially if all are unified, right? Like, well, there's no risk or reward. There's no politics. There's, it's all for one for all kind of thing. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my take on it.
But how much of that, real quick, Sonny, how much of that could potentially, and I'm playing devil's advocate now, how much of that could potentially play into a server that kind of has a feel like England is coming across the map and just taking everything over, and the downtrodden have to get together and push them out? It could play right into the lore of a server where the juggernaut is taken down, or there's guilds that work around mercenary work or guerrilla tactics, and they slowly but surely start to take down those caravans of some of that juggernaut, right? It could play right into the lore and the role play of a server if you have a juggernaut like that.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like for every like underdog story, there's 9 out of 10 beatdowns, right? And I don't know if I want to be beaten down 9 times in a row. That gets kind of exhausting. It really does. Like, and it's different if it's the environment, right? Like if the environment is harsh and you're an underdog trying to survive in the environment, that's one thing. But if you're getting beaten down and teabagged by like the same guild all day long, you just don't stick around. No. You're just not going to. Like, history has shown, even amongst the 3 of us, that we will not stick around for that. We will find something better to do with our time and find a different place to play. It's just, I don't know if 10,000 people is right or not because of the size of the map. And that was something that some of the people in chat had mentioned. Raka actually said it. He said, if a server has 10,000 people and there's 1,200 kilometers squared, it's less than 10 people per square kilometer. This makes sense, right? Now, it never works like that. Like, they're all going to be in the cities, right? And you're going to have people scattered around, but it could feel pretty empty. It's just hard to tell, like JB said. You just don't know what it's going to look like. What I do know is that if I'm on a server with Asmongold, I'm probably not going to have as much fun as if I was on a server without Asmongold. And that's right. I just feel like I can say that fairly definitively. I don't know if I like big content creator server type of environments. I think I'd rather experience the game without that. Now, this is something I'm going to post to you two, because you two were in a guild that was made around your podcast, Lore Seekers, in ESO. And ESO had weird guild rules where you could have like gigantic guilds and multiple guilds per person, which is pretty rare. You had multiple thousands of people running around with the Lore Seekers name on them. And so you were the big dogs, I believe, on your server. I know that you were well known, at least as far as a guild goes. People knew lore seekers, and they would talk about that kind of stuff. Do you feel like it was different for you being on the other side of it?
I don't think we were that big. Like from an in-game presence, you know what I mean? Like, because you would think of total numbers, yes, it was large, but on a regular evening, let's say a regular Tuesday night, even maybe a Friday or Saturday night, at peak, I think you would see, and I'm gonna say probably elsewhere days, Cash, I may be wrong, but like what, maybe 90 to 100 people on, if that, at a single time.
Yeah, I think where the rubber meets the road there is that our Discord was massive, but we were also spread all over all the platforms.
There's that.
That's a good point too.
We had PlayStation, we had Xbox in both North America and Europe, and then we had the same for PC, North America and Europe. So we were spread out all over the place. But the other thing was too is that we kind of fostered a kind of a casual gameplay. We had our tryhards for sure. Like I was a full neckbearder, and so for a long time. So we did have that aspect there, but we also did have a lot of people that played the game very casually. So yeah, probably at peak times we probably had for PC probably had 100 people. The one thing I will say though is that the weeks, like they had big weeks where you could go into, it was just a full PvP week. Right. And it was all around one of the characters in the game, Pelin Whitestrake. And he was like a hero. And they had this whole week. And it was basically like, was it Mayhem? Some PvP Mayhem. Mid-year Mayhem. And we spent that entire week in Cyrodiil, which is their PvP area. It's like the open world PvP. It's a massive zone where you're trying to take control of Cyrodiil, and it was really a lot of fun. But when we were all together in strength, we absolutely zerged everything. So you're right. I mean, you're definitely right there. We have been on that side of it. I don't know, I was going to say, I felt pretty damn good. Just rolling over all these ball groups, it felt really good.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that I want to be on the receiving end of that. I would like to be maybe a little bit more tactical with our guild in Ashes. I don't want to do that to others, and I also don't want that done unto me. But it is inevitable. It's going to happen. So I think really just finding a good balance, and it really is going to be, I think, a little bit of luck and some planning to find and get established on a good server. But still, there's always the threat of having a large guild either form, grow, or just show up and completely run your server. And if you're already established, what are you going to do? Like, there's probably not going to be server transfers on this game, at least for a long time. So, yeah,
that's interesting.
I hadn't really thought about that. JB, what do you do if you? What do we do, JB, if we all join a server and then Asmongold parachutes in with 30,000 players?
In the words of Michael Keaton in Dark Knight, when Batman he's like, how do I handle this? And he's, how do you deal with this madman? The Joker. And he's like, you endure, Master Bruce. You endure. That's what we do. We endure.
Yeah, I'll endure re-level in a new tune.
Yeah, right. No, see, that's the tough thing for us, because when you have a community like we're growing and building, and it's a tough thing just to move, because it's no longer you or even us three total. It's the community. You're thinking and considering the community. So it's not just an easy upheaval for us just to pick up and move. And so something like that, that's the thing that for us, there'd be meetings, we'd be talking with staff, the moderators, and just figuring out what's best for the community. But that wouldn't be an easy fix. It wouldn't be an easy fix or an easy move. No. And ultimately, sometimes, truthfully, the answer is you endure. And because oftentimes, I mean, this is nothing new, guys. This is every major release, especially if the streamer is paid. Oftentimes, The big heavy name streamers are a flash in the pan when it comes to a particular game. Unless, of course, they're creating for that game. For instance, I'll use Grand Theft Auto RP. That's a huge thing. That's a huge, huge thing. And it's fun to watch. Unless that's that streamer shtick. I mean, oftentimes the big name streamers, they're in for the weekend or they're in for as long as they're getting paid by the company to promote that game, and then they're out. And with them, most of the time it seems like it's a lot of their numbers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's just no way, right? There's no way that like a major streamer, not like just a big streamer, but like one of those galaxy streamers, you know, drops in and then plays Ashes for the next 3 years. Just no chance, right? Yeah. Like they're in for a month or two. They're going to do their thing. They're going to make their YouTube videos, and then they're going to leave and say it's broken. And that's the MO, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, it would be a rarity to have. And I truly believe that Intrepid is going to knock it out of the park. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And I think a lot of streamers might really enjoy the game and might be there for a while. But a lot of streamers, most streamers also are multi-gaming. They're doing several different games as opposed to just to one game. So I can't really say that I would blame Intrepid if they went down that route of paying some of the bigger streamers to get their game out there. I would probably do the same thing.
It's a business.
You know,
it's a business.
It is a business. They want their game out there. So, you know, I wouldn't blame them for that, but navigating that for the player, especially, you know, smaller creators like us who are going to have a community of people, that, just like JB was saying, that's very, very difficult to have people get established, even 10 levels, you know, or, you know, you start on a server, you start feeling it, you like your character, and then all of a sudden you know, we're making an announcement that, hey, because of this, that, and the other, we're switching over to this server. You will lose people will get, you know, pretty pissed off. We experienced that whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Although pretty much everybody was really cool, but we experienced that whole thing in New World. Like, we had picked a server, we got in there, it was 2,000 or 2,200 people was the cap, and we were all getting locked out. So we said, let's just go to one of these brand new servers. And it was a very hard decision to make.
Yeah.
And it would be even worse here, because I would imagine we're going to have a pretty good amount of friends that are going to be playing with us. So everything's up in the air. I love this question because it does spark a lot of conversation. There's tons of conversation going on in the chat, which I love. But I think we just have to be fluid with it, and we have to be ready to pull the trigger if that does happen. Because like even Wizzy was saying, she doesn't want to be on a server where Asmongold is, and it's nothing against Asmongold. He just brings so many people.
Right.
And I don't want to be part of that, because it really would ruin your gaming experience.
I think my last thought on this thing is that it is a net gain for the developer if an Asmongold plays their game and starts creating content about it, but is an absolute like collateral damage of the wake of players on a server that he parachutes in on. Those people are just going to be fodder for the Asmongold hype machine. You know, they are going to have a pretty miserable experience, I would say. And if you're one of those people on that server, there's just nothing you're going to be able to do or say to change that. But if you're Intrepid and you're running 100 or 200 servers at launch, you know, that's a cost of doing business. And that is really harsh and unfortunate, but I don't know how you could turn down something like that. Like, you can't tell a streamer that's going to bring that many people and that many views into your game, no, we're a little bit worried about the small fish on the server, that they might have an unpleasant experience.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, though, like the thing that and I agree with you, right? Like, I agree with totally what you're saying. The part that I do have a sticking point with, and because we've seen this in other games, and I'll just say it in New World, where a developer focuses on the big streamer and forgets about those who've been there supporting them. That's where I draw the red line. Don't forget about your community that has been there with you through all of this, because we were a part of that, Like, we were smaller when we were in New World. We knew that. But, and there was a lot of communities like us that were totally passed by just for the big name streamers that they paid for the week. Particularly, I think they hosted an event that was, what was it, like 20 streamers, and they were all streaming it, promoting the game. And then they did that again, not an event, but they did that again with streamers on their expansion release, and most recently. And it's just like that doesn't breed. And it's not like, oh, you didn't pick us, oh, you didn't pick me. No, not at all. The point is this, is that you don't want to forget about your community who's been there. Don't forget, and don't take out the people who have loved you and supported you for the sake of a quick net gain. That just leaves a sour taste, truthfully, to me.
I'm calling it right now. Intrepid does not do that. They're too connected. They're too connected to their community as it stands, and we know we are the community that stands now is a small slice of the pie that is going to be playing Ashes of Creation, because we're the diehards. You know, if you're in our chat, if you're a content creator for Ashes of Creation right now and you're following it, you're showing up to every dev discussion every month, yeah, you are a diehard, and you're a small sliver of what the community is going to be around launch time. It's going to get big. It will. Now, whether or not it stays that way past the inevitable MMO player drop off, which always happens. People try it out, figure it's not for them, and then they go. That's a whole other question to see where the game lands there. But I absolutely believe that Intrepid will not forget about their small creators. I just don't see it happening.
I don't either.
Yeah. When I was younger, I was in some bands and played some bars in various places. And I remember this one owner had been around a long time, and he would pack the bar on the weekends and stuff. And I'd ask him about stuff like that. And he goes, yeah, you know, that's all bonus money, but you need the regulars to pay the rent. Like year round, those regulars that are showing up on Tuesday, that are there in November, you know, stuff like that. All the Friday night college kids, stuff like that, that's just bonus. And that to me is what your big streamers are. But if you forget about the regulars, and the regulars feel like they lose faith in the company or the development team or anything like that, and they're not showing up, then you don't have a game anymore. And that's ultimately what happens to bars that don't remember who their regulars are. So I would agree with you, at least at this point. I have absolutely no reason to believe that Intrepid has forgotten about their regulars already, nor would they, pander or anything like that. Remains to be seen, because a lot's going to happen, and the one thing that we all agree is that it's going to go crazy at around Alpha 2 and thereafter. So there could be a lot of lunacy happening, but Intrepid just seems like they have a pretty good pulse of game content creators, and seem to really be supporting that. So I've never worked with a game that had a team that was more responsive. That's for damn sure. They're watching stuff. They made a comment on your they loved your cooking show, Cash.
Yeah.
The Varan Chef.
Yeah.
Like they saw this. It's a cooking show.
That was right. That was super cool. And like little things like that. I know I talked about it before, but little things like that. I nerd out on stuff like that. When you get one little comment like that, like we're a small streamer, we're a small creator, but when you get just that one thing, like they like it and say something about something that you've created for them, it is fuel.
Absolutely.
It is absolute fuel to keep going. And you're like, okay, they saw it, it just makes you want to continue to create. And it's almost like a little kid bringing home like a picture they made in class with crayon, a picture of mom and dad just going nuts over it. Like, oh, I love that. It's so nice. And the little kid just beams. Yeah, that's how I was when they made a comment on my Varan Chef videos. Looking up for some reason.
They loved it.
Well, there you go. That's KOTOR. I thought that was a good one just because it was like it was a question that we've asked before, but the concept of like, what do you do, or is this good or bad or what with major streamers? So there you go, Reddit. You're still not disappointing me. So keep it up.
Oh, goodness. So good. All right. So, gentlemen, Dev Discussion Week. We're bringing it back here on the show. And everyone who's tuning in, again, if you don't know what this is, we're combing through old Dev Discussion posts from years past, long before we were ever here. And the first one up is Dev Discussion number 31. And this is on environments. Now, this was originally posted July of 2021. And here's the question. And I'm going to go to Sunny first on this. What are some of the elements that make for a more, quote, realistic or lifelike world when you play a game, from NPCs to environments and beyond? How much does realism matter to you generally?
It matters enormously to me because I find that I am more interested and I have more enjoyment in the elements of a game that are more like Earth.
Yeah.
And I know that this is like the opposite of what you're supposed to do in an MMO. Like, we play fantasy games. It's supposed to be a fantasy. But the further I get away from Earth, the less I enjoy it. Like, I think of God, was it was the second expansion on Warcraft, or the first expansion? Was that the Burning Crusade?
Yes.
You went through the portal, right? You go through the big portal, and then you're just like on freaking Mars. Right? Like, whoa. That is a great example of what I'm not looking for.
Yeah.
I love nothing more than when I get like an alpine situation, a forest, snow. I love snow in MMOs. Just my all-time favorite. Snow, a river. If I can have, like, one of the other things that was not NPCs, but like light. If I can see light coming through trees or something like that, or like things look like they're, like in the morning or the evening, like dusk or dawn or something like that. I love that kind of stuff. And now with the Unreal Engine stuff that is coming out, the lighting is just so spectacular. Those are the kind of things that I like more than anything. NPCs, mobs, I'm a little indifferent. I can understand that kind of stuff is very game dependent on what the flavor of the game is. But like, honestly, realism, hugely important to me, and I really like things that remind me of places that I would like to go on Earth. I mean, that's just kind of the answer for me.
That's good. Cash?
I really liked this question because it allows us the opportunity to really talk about the things that make us stick in games, to be quite honest with you. So elements that make a game more realistic or lifelike to me, and I'm very excited about seeing in Ashes because I know it's coming. I know they're doing it. Cities and towns that make the world feel alive. And I had talked about this a little bit when they did the very first they talked about caravans, but it was more like the mayor's dev discussion that they did, where they went through that city. And the city, like, it felt alive. Like, you were looking at it and like people are walking around big barrels and people having conversations. And I love stuff like that. Seeing people working, seeing people talk to each other when they recognize you, like your presence. And they like, I don't want people to say, oh my gosh, it's the Dama King. I don't want that. I don't want that. But if I've done a certain quest or something, or if you've helped that NPC in the past, I would love for them to say, hey, by the way, thanks again for helping me when I was down. That would be so freaking cool. And like, I'd look and go, oh, that's right. I killed the rat in your basement.
I killed 10 rats in your basement.
Yeah, I did that for you. So you could reopen your tavern. So cool. Yeah. Free drinks on me, or free drinks for me. I love stuff like that. So environment's another thing. Environments that are like fully explorable. So I'm talking overland stuff that transitions really well into underground stuff. So if I find a little bush, it's like Jibs and I did that time in Guild Wars 2, where we found this bush that was in front of this cave, and we go in this cave. There's a massive cave system. Like little things like that, where it transfers from the overworld to the underworld, and then underwater stuff, of course. Like when it feels like a large, explorable world, that to me is a massive, massive part about having the game feel realistic and lifelike. Another thing I like, when you walk into a town and there's buildings that just don't have like glued shut doors, like you can actually open a door. Oh, I like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about, where it looks like the door is part of a wallpaper on the outside of the building.
Yeah.
Me no like two-dimensionally flush with the, no, I agree with that. That's kind of like,
right. Like I like that kind of stuff. Even if that door is locked, I want to be able to like reach out and grab it and say, this door's locked. Okay, well, it's not my door. Or you open it up and then there's an NPC inside and they're like, you don't belong in here. Roger that. Wrong house. Boop. Close the door. You're out. Right. I love stuff like that. So, and then say you get into one of those rooms. I like there to be lootable items. I like there to be a little chest that you can open, even if it's not your stuff. Then you always have like the little dude standing on your shoulder that's just like, that's not your stuff. That's stealing if you take that. Yeah, I love
what that leads to, though. That leads to you collecting brooms.
Totally does. Well, what about them? It's like say very Elder Scrollsy, but books.
Yeah.
Books that you can read, scrolls that you can pick up, and like say I pick it up. Okay, maybe it respawns in another 5 minutes for the next person to find. Those are the things that I think make the world feel alive. Now, part of this is like who did it well? Who do I think did stuff like this well? Right? Okay. Well, Elder Scrolls did it really well with all of their underground caves and delves. And I think about Skyrim. Like I would spend an entire play session in one evening because I discovered a delve. And I was going to go through it with my freaking archer, like full stealth mode, which everybody always went archer in Skyrim because it was awesome. And I would spend the entire evening just clearing that thing out top to bottom. I loved that kind of stuff. So they did it really, really well. We've talked about water content before. Guild Wars 2 did water content, insanely amazing. They made it feel like the world was vertical.
Yeah.
Not just this horizontal plane of things that you go and do, but there was a lot of stuff underground. There was hidden caves and all of this stuff that you could do. What other games had like dynamic events? Dynamic events, which we know are going to be in this game.
Right.
Okay. Here's an example. Great. Guild Wars 2 is fantastic. What about Red Dead Redemption?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the best. The best at that, right?
Man. Oh my God. Just some amazing stuff that can take you in a totally different direction just because you happen to stumble upon an NPC that needs help. Go ahead, Jibs.
Yeah, and you know what though that made that so great? It was like, and even I would argue, I'm just gonna say even better than Guild Wars 2, and that was amazing. But it was like, it was so relatable. It wasn't like in Red Dead Redemption 2, it wasn't a dragon showing up. It wasn't the world splitting open like maybe you see in Elder Scrolls or something. Even though that is a part of the lore, with the Daedric Gates, huge and rich and deep, wonderful lore there. It was totally relatable to like a dude stealing your horse. Something that is very menial, like less world, relating and more like village relating. Like that dude just stole the honey off of he just stole my blueberry crumb pie out of my window. And he's riding a bear outside of the city. Like, what is going on? Like something like that. I think that's why that was great.
And there were other games that have done that as well. Playing Kingdom Come Deliverance was pretty cool with some of the events because much like, and I feel like this is a direct rip off Red Dead Redemption, they would set the traps, right? The people, this is a very common thing. You're going down a road in a place with a canopy. You can't really see around it, and someone's hurt on the side of the road. And so you, being an adventurer, you see the person, you stop, you slow down even, and then the other people spring out of nowhere, and the person that just got paid to pretend they're injured is gone. Right. And that kind of stuff happened all the time in Red Dead Redemption with various flavors and things like that, because it's so possible, right? It's so plausible that bad guys with like a little bit of brain power might concoct something like this. And when you're doing it and it happens to you out of the blue, it makes everything feel so real, because you have to react in real time. You're like, oh crap, I thought I was helping this person. Now there's 4 guys with guns and they're stealing my horse.
Right.
Yeah, and the way that you said that though is exactly what we're talking about. Like that is so plausible. And that's what makes moments like that in games realistic and real. And like, this kind of stuff matters a lot to me. And I think we have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because, we're talking about a fantasy game. This is a fantasy game based in a fantasy world. So realism is kind of a relative term when you're talking about something like this. But just like Sonny was saying, for the most part, when you can relate to things that you've seen or would like to see in our own lives, in your game, that's what brings realism to these games. And with the new graphics engines, like Sonny was saying also, with the new graphics engines and just how beautiful these games can be, even though it's a fantasy world, you are having real life, human, real world experiences take place in your games. Like, you walk by and you're hearing a conversation. How many times did we hear absolutely hilarious conversations in Guild Wars 2?
Oh,
you're just walking by.
Yeah.
And these two people are just chatting it up. We'd talk about them all the time when we were covering that game. Those are the things that I would like to see. I want to see 2 guards arguing over the barmaid. That to me is what makes the world real. Yeah. It brings it to life.
Feels organic, and it feels alive. And I think both of you have really, in one way or another, said that. And that's, for me, like, when it comes to these environments, it's like when, and have you guys ever heard the expression burn the boats? Like, whenever it comes to going out and doing something.
You just like dropped this the other day, and I had never heard this expression.
Yeah, so the idea is, sorry, Cash, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to bag on you, so.
Oh, fantastic. Well, never mind then.
I was going to say, is that kind of like keep your eye on a swivel?
That needs to be trademarked. I can't believe I said that. And the fact is that you made a list and you didn't tell me this. Me, of all people, you don't share that you're making a list of the things I have said. Me! So, and you don't even bring it up until we're on the show.
One of these days, the list of all of JB's effed up sayings is going to be released.
I'm intrigued. There's probably a laundry list anyway.
Eye on a swivel.
I don't know, man. Maybe it was a few whiskeys in. It was a Friday night. We were maybe deep in Planet Side 2. I don't know. All right, so burn the boats, right? In other words, like, you don't give yourself any way off the island. You have nowhere to go but forward. And so, in other words, what I mean by that with this, it's like, whenever a developer goes like all in on, I'll just say a city or a concept or an idea that ultimately turns into a city that feels like it's living and breathing. You have your pathing going on from your NPCs. You have that perfect ambience that is just tickling all the audio ear hairs you got going on there. Everything's just right. And some of those were, and a lot of that to me goes when it comes to rendering, like the way that they build these buildings. How does that look? And then you have that ambience and the people walking and talking. I'll never forget Fable. I walk into a city and I hear someone say, "Oh, there's the chicken chaser." Like, oh, I have a title? I chased a chicken. Now I have that title? Chicken chaser, come, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll never forget that. And that, to this day, because of how they built that world, is Albion is still one of my all-time favorites. Fable. I love it because of that. And there's one thing that I want to say takes me out of the world. So takes me out of the environment. And you know, different strokes for different folks, but really for me, I recently played Starfield. I did not really make it past getting off the first planet in Starfield, and I'll tell you why. The environment was beautiful. Like, I had been waiting. I'm a huge fan of Fallout. I'm a huge fan of the Elder Scrolls series. I love Bethesda's storytelling, right? And we've experienced that through Bethesda and all the way back into old school BioWare days, you know, from way back when. And so I'm playing Starfield, and the world is just beautiful. I mean, they went all in on everything. They really created this world. And I'm just looking around, and I'm just like, wow. But the thing that took me out of that world quicker than anything, story. Because of the pacing of the story, I could not even feel as though I had an opportunity to fall in love, and then again, just my opinion, fall in love with the world, to fall in love with the environment. Like it's like an awkward first date, right? Like you're not sure, should I try to hold the hand? Should I is it like do I like what do I buy the drink? What is she like? You know, like what,
first base, second base, third base,
like,
which one
where am I going
do?
with this? Like it's this awkward dance, right? You're falling in love with the world. But when story and pacing doesn't line up, when it doesn't allow you that opportunity to fall in love with what you're trying to fall in love with, it can just as quickly rip you out of it. And that was kind of my experience with Starfield. And admittedly, I was a little disappointed by it. So I would say that on the flip side, that I think is what can take you out of these worlds.
Yeah, you were trying to explain this to me, and you did a really good job when you said, you know, I was dropped into the story, and then I was accelerated so fast into the next thing that I didn't know who I was or why I was there or why I should care. And I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you are not going to love this, and you're not going to feel like this is a realistic story if you don't have any backdrop to what the hell is going on. Like you need that foundational element, and that's, you know, integral to MMO building. You need to start at the bottom in every MMO. You just have to, and you do in almost every MMO. Even modern Star Wars games, right? They rarely make you a Jedi to start. You're almost always somebody who is just learning everything. And even if you are a Jedi, you're just learning how to be a Jedi. So that kind of thing, that's an interesting point, that like, that has nothing to do with graphics. That has nothing to do with NPCs. That has nothing to do with anything, but it is just as easy to rip you out of the story by failing to give you that cornerstone of a character. It's a really good point.
Okay, I'm gonna capstone this one for us.
Okay,
because I know we got another one to get to too. If you were to pick one MMO, and I'm not talking just game, I'm talking one massively multiplayer online role-playing game that you've played that truly allowed you to immerse yourself into the world, which MMO gave you the best memories immersing yourself in the world because of all the things that we've talked about tonight?
Wow. Oh, man. Sonny? What do you think?
I'm going to go with SWTOR, and it defies everything that I've said about like the lighting and the graphics and everything, because I thought that they built the characters just so damn well that I feel like I really was attached to my character. More than any other game, I was that smuggler scoundrel. I was Sonny, and like, man, the way that they did it with the way that your clothes could stay with you throughout the entire thing, and you could just like adjust things around it, and the story and the companions that you had, I felt like that one was the most MMO realistic experience for me. The graphics were terrible, and I didn't get any of that fun stuff. Maybe Tython was okay, but like everything I said that I loved about realism earlier on, none of that happened. But the story and the characters were so good that was the one for me. Okay,
rephrase that question one more time, Cash.
If there's one MMO out there that really shined for you when it came to how you were able to immerse yourself in the world, like all the elements it had all the elements that we talked about tonight, or at least a majority of them for you, that gave you the best memories for you being able to immerse yourself in the world. What was it?
Lord of the Rings Online. Never forget it. Never forget it.
Wow.
And it was, it was that, but it was also the community that reinforced it. Old school Lotro back then. I'll never forget. I was playing on a HP laptop in a coffee shop because we didn't have high-speed internet. That's how I got to play the game. And it was like I was immersed, full on immersed. I was in the Prancing Pony. I was in Bree. There was people out selling things. Like, it just felt, that was my very first MMO experience. And it just, and you know, I like Nomad Tam in chat, he talked about WoW original release. I almost went with that. And Sonny, you're not wrong with SWTOR, but I think for me, it's probably Lotro.
That's a good one, man. You really can go to like the Prancing Pony, though. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Cash, what about you?
Cash, what about you? Yeah, I want to hear you.
I'm gonna say for me, because I had so much, and maybe a lot of these things probably weren't there because it was one of the earlier games, but Star Wars Galaxies for me. A lot of that has to do with just me being such a huge Star Wars fan, which as all three of us are, but I made that one character that I took through so much content in that game. And that game didn't even really have a lot of content. The content was like sandbox type content. You were making your own content, but I'll just say I spent a lot of hours on that dang character trying to unlock my Jedi slot. And my Master Doctor, I had so many hours into him, and I kind of just role played in my head every single time I logged into that character, and that game really did seal the deal for me with MMOs, period.
Right.
That game is the reason that MMOs are the number one type of game, the number one genre of game that I still play to this day.
Yeah, and you know what? It's an odd thing, man, when you fall in love with MMOs, right? Like, there's a part of you that loves that RPG element, that real deep, you know, just world that you can jump into. But then there's that other part of you that's like been introduced to multiplayer, where you took that first step into what a multiplayer game was, and then you fall in love with that. You fall in love with the community engagement. And then you which ultimately leads you to, the MMORPG. And it's just such a interesting thing. But anyway, so yeah, Dev Discussion 31 on environments. Now this next one, the last one before we wrap up the show here today, is Dev Discussion number 26. Now this one,
it's gonna be like lightning round right here.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. That's why it was last.
Are you falling asleep, Tom Selleck? Are you good?
My mustache is weighing me down. I need to put it on a pillow.
Oh, all right, Pedro. So Dev Discussion number 26, login rewards. This originally posted January 2021. What are your thoughts around login rewards, whether on a daily or long-term basis for cosmetic items? What reward systems from other games have you liked and disliked, and for what reasons? Cash,
Cash, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go on this one. I will say that generally I like them. I do enjoy them. I just don't want it thrown in my face so much that it feels like it's a chore to me. And I think some games can do that. And I think the difference there is how the login rewards are presented.
There.
And interface is very, very important. Like what that UI actually looks like. I don't want it to seem like it's an advertisement for their store or for, well, if you do this many days, you get this. I want it to feel organic. So I'll just throw it out there. I know we disparage it a lot, but there's a lot of good things about it. But New World's login rewards kind of seemed like it was a chore. It always just seemed like it was a chore to me. Guild Wars 2's was flat out overwhelming because you would get so much stuff. Like you were bombarded with so much stuff. Now, granted, it's an older game, so I kind of get it, but man, that one was freaking overload. The one that I really like I really very well do like this one quite a bit, is the way World of Warcraft does their trading post. I really like that one. The way it works, if you haven't played Warcraft in a while, is this. You get a currency for completing random things you do in the game. Unless you're like looking at it, if you're just playing the game, you are going to hit several of these things, because it's these things that you would do in the game cover every aspect of gameplay that anybody would do. Crafting, questing, PvE, PvP, dungeons, like raids, all kinds of stuff. As you progress through the month, you start checking these things off, and the little line just keeps going a little further. It's just like an XP bar for each month. It goes a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. When you get to the very end, filling up your bar, depending on how much you play the game, you will get like one large item each month. And it's normally something pretty big, like a mount, which is, it's usually really cool. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of the trading post is that you acquire currency through the things that you're doing. And every month there's a trading post inventory list with all kinds of cosmetic items. And you can go in there and you can spend that currency just for logging in. You get to go in there and spend the currency that you've earned on all these cosmetic items, and they change every month. Now they also have, say you run out, so you don't get to play that much that month, but you have something that you don't want to see disappear because the next month you're afraid it's going to be gone. You can take that item, you pull it into a slot, and it will hold that item for you until next month when you can gain enough. And I really liked that. I was like, this is a pretty ingenious little system to keep people logging in. It's an additional thing that you don't even expect it. All of a sudden you get a little achievement that boop, pops up and says, oh, you've completed this much, or you've completed this much. And I really do enjoy that type of a daily system that's kind of passive. It's not in your face, and you still have these really cool rewards that you can physically travel to and look at when you're ready. Or when one of your friends says, dude, did you look at the trading post today? There's a cloak on it. Go look at it. And you go on your time. It's not thrown in your face like freaking confetti that you inhale every single time you log into the game. And I really like that about the way Warcraft is. So I like them. I'm good with them.
Generally, I don't like them. I don't like login rewards. I find that it turns my game into something where I need to log in and then log out because I don't actually have time to play it, and I'm logging in specifically so that I can continue on this hamster wheel of whatever it is. Now, I will tell you that Warcraft has come up with a very creative solution to that. Now, Steven was also asked about this, and he had, a decently creative solution. He said, what if every day you got a cosmetic coin and there was unique cosmetic purchasables for a certain number of coins? You build up coins over time, and then you buy the things that you want, right? Now, the problem is that if there's something worth 30 coins and your cosmetic things reset or whatever every month, you're still on the hamster wheel. And I don't like the hamster wheel. I don't like that. I don't like that it changes things for me. And I know that it doesn't have to, but I feel like it does just by putting that thing out there. Now, you're not wrong about the confetti in Guild Wars 2. That was obscene. It was way too much, right? Like they are doing it wrong. And I didn't like that at all. New World, something about it felt gross. Like I just didn't like that either. And so it's a real difficult thing, and Warcraft's ability, I would say the best thing that you said about Warcraft's thing is how you can almost put something on layaway, how you can take something and say, I don't have the money for this, but this is the thing that I really want with my whatever login tokens. And so I'm just going to put this on the side and you just keep putting things up there, but this is the thing I want. Now that's kind of cool. I will give you that one. That's kind of a happy medium. I get why login rewards are important because, I'm telling you, they change my behavior. Like, I understand what it is. I don't like it, and it still changes my behavior. So there is merit from a developer standpoint on this. I just generally don't love it in my MMOs. But if I'm gonna have to have it, then I want you to be a little bit creative with the way that you give it to me, so that I can feel like a little bit surprised and feel like I have some sort of control in this thing, and it's not dominating the landscape of when I log in.
I don't like them. I'm gonna take that stance. I think, like, I see both sides, but I think, like, and there's things I genuinely love about the trading post in Warcraft. There's things that I genuinely loved about ESO's login rewards. There's things I genuinely liked about Guild Wars 2. But at the same token, Guild Wars 2 was a ton of stuff. ESO, I'll never forget. I think in the time that we were in ESO, I was only ever able to get 1 month full of rewards, logging in every day for a month. And there was only one other time I was close, and I remember, like, real life came up. There was no way I was getting logged in unless I gave someone my login information, which I didn't think about doing. Like, life happened and I couldn't log in, and it messed my entire month up, and there was a reward I couldn't get because of it. And I was just, like, so deflated. I'll never forget that. I was so deflated. I'm like, man, I worked so hard because I wanted this so bad. And then I see everybody else who had it, right? Like, this is total first world problems. Like, it's totally it's totally, like, selfish. But, like, I think it comes down to me is I don't like login rewards because it shouldn't have to change how I play the game. It shouldn't have to change, like, life that I have to live to enjoy it. And to see other people have something that maybe you don't have, maybe because life happened, and you couldn't help it. Well, that's not fair to that person. They couldn't help it. I don't know. Maybe something happened health-wise and with somebody, they had to go somewhere. Like, life happens. And so for me, I think I would just rather, like, keep it out and, like, hey, people love and support your game through paying for it every month. Let them love you that way. And then, just keep creating great content. I think that's where I'm at with it. Kind of an odd take, probably, but
you mentioned something in there that I hadn't thought about, and that's the difference between the subscription plan, right? Like, is it more important in a game that is free to play than it is in a game with a monthly subscription? With the monthly subscription, you're already paying the subscription, right? Like, they've got you. Do you really need to force these people to log in every single day?
But I want shinies. I think it seems like most of chat doesn't like login rewards either. They're having a conversation.
Minority. Yeah,
they're having a conversation about FOMO, and you guys hate it. Now I feel like Simple Jack sitting here just because Squirrel, look at the cool cloak. Okay, I'll go chop down 6,000 trees just to get that cloak and watch the little meter go up like this much. Whoop.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I just think that, like, this could be one of those things that's like old man gaming, right? Like, the older we get, the less we like stuff like that, because we just want a slower, more relaxing experience. I mean, we want a fantasy experience. That's what we want. And when you log in and they're like, bah, 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 7th straight login, you're just like, Jesus, what are we doing here, right? Like, I do not like that at all.
And Nomad Tam in chat says, if everything is shiny, then nothing is shiny. It brings up a good point. Because then if you're doing these login rewards, then you come to a point where, as a developer, you have to improve upon last month's rewards. You have to make something even better.
Hamster wheel.
And then it just keeps amping up until one day I'm looking over at Cash and he's got a 6-headed shiny unicorn mount that's got wings coming out of its butt, 7 tails, and it's, it talks like,
and a mustache.
And a mustache and a Tom Selleck mustache. What the heck, man?
So, like, I don't like it when you log into a game and then bam, it's the first screen that pops up. Remind you of, like, these are the things that you need to do. I totally get that. You both hit it on the head when you said you don't like them to dictate your experience, right? The things that you do. I'm not changing the way that I feel about it, because I think it's an additional aspect of the game that I actually do enjoy doing. I think it's a nice little reminder that, hey, we noticed that you logged in today. We noticed that you logged in every day for the past month for like 8 hours a day. That's pretty fantastic. So here's some shit. We're going to give you some shit. I think that's great. But at the same time, I can see and agree with and respect everything you guys are saying about it. So I'm not on the fence. I like it, but I can see both sides of the argument. It's very eloquent, and chat was fantastic with all their thoughts too on it. I can totally see your guys' point.
You know what the last thing I'm going to say on this is, and I think we can all agree on this one, is you know what the best part of this is that birthday gift that you get, like for like being a member of the game for like a year when they send you something for that, and like the next year. Do you like those ones? I like those ones a lot.
Was that like Guild Wars 2?
SWTOR.
Guild Wars gave like and Warcraft's done it, but like I got something when I logged back into Guild Wars, and then it gave me like a 10-year gift, and I'm like, damn!
Yes. and you know what?
For 9.5 of those years.
And honestly, when it's your birthday, I don't care if you're the most burly man or if you are, a young little kid just super excited about birthdays. When it's your birthday and somebody tells you happy birthday, how freaking cool is it? It's like, this is your moment. This is your day, and it's special. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a grown burly man, and it still feels good when somebody tells me happy birthday when it is my birthday. So yeah, like I love that kind of stuff, to open it up and like, oh my God, Intrepid remembered my birthday.
I know. Yeah. I do love that.
Even if it's your character's birthday, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is, really. But
and if it's in game, it's so much better.
Yeah, super cool.
To get it like in-game mail, like happy birthday.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Like here's a pair of socks. Awesome.
Yes. And like, I'm agree 1,000%. Like, it doesn't need to be amazing. It doesn't need to have 7 wings and 7 heads and fly and talk to me. Like, just give me I love just a little piece of mail. And maybe like a birthday cake or socks or whatever, just a consumable, something just insignificant, but that's just like, hey, happy birthday. Like yes, 1,000%. 1,000%. Well, gentlemen, this was good. Now, to everyone who's listening, I forgot to address this at the beginning of the show. We're doing this kind of episode because we're recording so early in the week, and we have the dev update coming later this week, so we'll be covering that all next episode, which is fun because that's 30 episodes for us. So next week on LoreForged, we'll be doing 30 episodes. We're 30 days old. No, 30 episodes old.
We're 3 decades old.
We're 3 decades old. That's what it was. We're 3 decades old.
Why did we go back to days?
Oh man. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was LoreForged. If you enjoyed this show, let us know how we're doing. Helps us improve upon the show. And plus, it, if you like the show, tell a friend about it. Maybe tell your community about it. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. But hey, we appreciate you push and play. For every 5-star review that we got on Apple Podcasts, we'll read your review right here on the show. And of course, you can always call us 516-875-1776. And you can email us, sunny@loreforgedhq@gmail.com.
You can go to our website, which is a link tree, and find links to all of the links. That's at loreforged.com, and that will also link you to YouTube, where we do basically everything, including cooking shows, where you can see Cash's Varan Chef right there. It is spectacular. He's got a new one coming out. I have seen it with my own eyes. It is excellent and extremely tasty. It makes me want to eat the food. And so I can understand when he says that, like, as soon as he's done filming, he has to consume this thing that he spent like 8 hours making. Makes total sense. If you watch one of those videos, I highly recommend it. It's twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ. You can see this show right on Twitch. You can also see myself, Cash, and JB every now and then doing streams during the day, just kind of having some fun, chatting Ashes and playing whatever game we can while we wait for Alpha 2. And then, of course, there is the Patreon with our owls in there. We have a Patreon that is at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ, and you can catch all of our stuff early. But on top of that, you get the State of the Owl, which is our sort of after dark, gloves are off, fun little hour-long show. It's a good time. Check it out on Patreon. And that's me, Cash.
Friends, if you are on X, you can follow Jibs at JibsIRL. You can follow myself at Cash Quests. You can follow Sunny at U of Coruscant. And don't forget to follow the show at LoreForged HQ. That's where we give all the announcements for when we're going live. Would like to say a big thank you to our new Discord members this week. We have Squatch and Napa Max. Hi, Max. Love you, man. Not really nice to see you. Haven't seen it in quite a while.
I haven't seen Max yet. I saw the name pop up, but I have not seen Max. I'm very excited about this.
So Max joined us yesterday, and I do also want to give a massive shout out to the Lore Seekers community. They are still going strong, and they had their 6th anniversary of Lore Seekers yesterday.
That's so cool.
Which was really cool. So I popped over to the Discord over there just to say hello, and everybody was super gracious and stuff. It was really cool to see that still taking place, and the fact that that community is just still thriving. So hello to everybody over at the Lore Seekers community. Also, I want to say a big thank you to Squatch. Squatch joined us yesterday, and Squatch hit me up over DMs, and based off of our last show was giving me a good recommendation on a new lit RPG.
Ooh,
that I was very interested in this one, and it's called Shadeslinger, and I guess it's getting some pretty good accolades. You know what a lit RPG is, Sonny? You have a look on your face like you smelled something you didn't like.
It was a sash. He didn't even wash it yet. It's got the scent of rug burn and mud flaps.
I got nothing.
Okay, so I'm going to throw it out there real quick. So anyway, thank you, Squatch. I do appreciate that. But a lit RPG is a literary RPG where basically it is like the main character is going through an MMO. They level up, they get new skills, and especially if you listen to them on Audible, some of them are absolutely hilarious. They're super fun. It's like a gamer gets transported into this game world, and they are leveling up as they go. If you've watched, God, there's an anime out about it right now, Solo Leveling, which my daughter's making me watch. It's actually really freaking good.
Is it a book?
Yeah, lit RPGs are books, but
okay.
I get them on Audible because I consume books like crazy on Audible. So anyway, lit RPG, and I'll start reading this one if it's good, which I'm sure it's going to be. I'll ship it over to you, Sonny. Yeah. So anyway, thanks.
Post it in the Discord. I will see.
I'll post it up in the Discord. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm kind of excited to get going on that one. I do have to wait though, because this is just a side tangent. Before I do that one, I just started. Actually, I think I'm like on chapter 30 or something. But I started a Terminal List, which is definitely not a lit RPG, but holy crap, is that a good book? On a recommendation from one of my buddies from work, and oh my god, I am super addicted to the Terminal List right now. Super good.
That's awesome.
So, anyway, yeah, that's it. Join us on our Discord, friends. It's super fun, and YouTube, and we're kind of doing all the things and having a blast doing it. So there you go.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This was LoreForged. You stay safe, stay classy. We'll see you next week right here on LoreForged.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventurers.